The music industry in the United States has witnessed several foreign artists rise to prominence over the years. From the Beatles in the 1960s to the Latin music wave led by artists like Bad Bunny and J Balvin, American audiences have shown their openness to international acts when backed by distinctive talent and consistent output. One of the most transformative waves in recent history has been the rise of K-pop, with BTS leading the charge into mainstream Western consciousness. However, as of 2025, a clear shift is emerging in this narrative. Jungkook, one of the youngest members of BTS, is now trending more than the group itself in the American market. The foundations of BTS's popularity in America. Before understanding Jungkook's individual trajectory, it is essential to contextualize the broader foundation laid by BTS. The group's emergence in the US market can be traced back to their performance at the American Music Awards in 2017, which marked a pivotal moment in their crossover appeal. From there, BTS executed a string of strategic moves, including English-language singles like Dynamite, Butter, and Permission to Dance. These tracks achieved commercial success, securing #1 positions on the Billboard Hot 100 and cementing BTS's place in American pop culture. The group also leveraged the power of social media, particularly Twitter and YouTube, to engage with fans directly, which helped them bypass traditional gatekeeping in the US music industry. Their socially conscious lyrics, synchronized choreography, and diverse discography appealed to a wide demographic. BTS became the first group since the Beatles to earn 3 #1 albums on the Billboard 200 in less than a year. Jungkook's solo entrance. Jungkook began building his individual brand years before the official launch of his solo music. Through BTS content such as vlogs, live broadcasts, and behind-the-scenes footage, Jungkook emerged as a fan favorite for his multifaceted talent, vocals, dance, production, and even graphic design. His solo performances during BTS concerts and his covers of Western songs such as Justin Bieber's Purpose or Laughs, Never Not, hinted at his capability to carry a global sound on his OW and I. In 2023, Jungkook released his debut solo single, 7, featuring American rapper Latto. The song was a commercial triumph, debuting at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. What made this release significant wasn't just its performance, but its design. An English-language, summer-themed pop track with a featured US artist. This intentional targeting of the Western pop audience paid off. Jungkook was no longer seen solely as a K-pop idol. He was entering the territory of international solo pop stars. Comparative market reception. Comparing the reception of BTS and Jungkook in America involves multiple metrics: chart performance, streaming numbers, social media trends, and media coverage. When BTS released their last group album before the military hiatus, it topped charts and broke records, but its presence on US radio and in mainstream music discussions was more niche compared to domestic American artists. In contrast, Jungkook's 7 and subsequent releases received notable radio play, media coverage in lifestyle and entertainment magazines, and inclusion in US-based playlists on Spotify and Apple Music. This differential treatment suggests a shift in how American industry gatekeepers and audiences perceive K-pop acts. While BTS shattered many stereotypes and opened the door, solo efforts like Jungkook's are crossing through that door into a more normalized Western pop sphere. This isn't a reflection of BTS losing relevance, but of Jungkook adapting more fluidly to Western music consumption patterns, audience behavior, and digital ecosystem. The digital ecosystem plays a massive role in shaping artist visibility and influence in the US social media algorithms. User engagement and virality determine who trends and why. Jungkook's solo content benefits from the same fervent fanbase that supported BTS, but it also captures new listeners who may not identify as ARMY. His collaborations with familiar American artists and producers create a bridge for casual listeners unfamiliar with K-pop. TikTok has especially proven influential. Challenges and snippets of his music go viral more easily due to their English lyrics and universal themes. His appearances on American television, Engagement with fashion brands like Calvin Klein and social media presence further contribute to his brand expansion. In the US summary of emerging trend, the growing popularity of Jungkook over BTS in the American market isn't rooted in competition but in evolution. The group set the stage. Jungkook is extending its legacy in a different format. His success reflects broader industry trends where individual artists often gain more sustained attention than groups due to personalized marketing and adaptable branding. In examining the comparative popularity of Jungkook and BTS in the American music market, one of the most telling indicators comes from the Billboard charts. Billboard, long considered a gold standard for measuring commercial music success in the United States, provides insight into what American consumers are listening to, buying, and streaming. Analyzing Jungkook's solo entries on various Billboard charts reveals how his individual trajectory is gaining momentum, sometimes even surpassing BTS's group releases. In the US solo success on the Billboard Hot 100, Jungkook's debut solo single 7 featuring Latto entered the Billboard Hot 100 at number 1 in July 2023. This was a significant achievement not only for Jungkook, but for K-pop soloists in general. BTS had previously claimed the top spot on multiple occasions, but 7 marked the first time a BTS member achieved this as a soloist. Following 7, Jungkook released 3D featuring Jack Harlow, which entered the Hot 100 at number 5. Both singles maintained multi-week chart placements and accumulated millions of digital streams. These chart entries demonstrated that Jungkook's solo work was resonating with mainstream American listeners beyond the BTS fanbase. In contrast, BTS's most recent group release before the military hiatus debuted strong but had a faster decline in rankings, indicating a more niche market saturation compared to Jungkook's more widespread appeal. This might reflect the difference in music style and presentation. Jungkook's solo singles, performed in English and crafted with Western musical elements, align more closely with US radio and streaming audiences. Billboard Global 200 and digital song sales. Jungkook's presence on the Billboard Global 200 and digital song sales charts has also been strong. He topped the Global 200 with 7 and consistently ranked in the top 10 with follow-up releases. On the digital song sales chart, Jungkook has maintained high positions, reflecting significant digital purchases, a metric that often represents a committed listener base. Notably, BTS historically dominated digital song sales, breaking records with each release. However, with the group's pause in collective activities, Jungkook has become the leading Korean act in these areas. While other BTS members have had successful solo releases, none have consistently charted as high or as frequently as Jungkook in the American market. Billboard 200 and album Impact. Jungkook's debut solo album, Golden, released in late 2023, debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200. The album sold over 210,000 units in its first week, an impressive figure for a K-pop solo artist. In comparison, BTS's final group album before their hiatus also reached high Billboard 200 positions, but Jungkook's Golden held its ground for a longer chart duration, showing a more sustained interest. Golden was notable for its inclusion of multiple English-language tracks, Western producers, and collaborations with American artists, making it more accessible to non-Korean-speaking audiences. Additionally, Jungkook's promotional activities around the album included performances on American television, digital media appearances, and fan engagement campaigns specifically tailored to US audiences. Airplay and radio impact. One area where Jungkook has clearly surpassed BTS is in radio airplay. While BTS broke barriers in terms of streaming and digital engagement, US radio remained a more challenging arena for them. Their songs, despite massive digital numbers, were not heavily rotated on mainstream radio stations. Jungkook, however, has gained traction on American Top 40 and adult contemporary formats, particularly with 7 and Standing Next to You. This airplay signals that his music is not only being streamed, but also embraced by traditional gatekeepers in the US music ecosystem. As a solo artist, he appears more compatible with radio formats, Owing to his English lyrics and stylistic alignment with pop R&B hybrids common in US charts. Contextualizing the chart success, it's important to note that BTS's group success laid the groundwork for individual member achievements. Without BTS's rise, Jungkook's solo debut likely would not have received the same level of anticipation or global attention. However, the data suggests that once Jungkook stepped into the solo spotlight, he managed to build a presence independent of the group's brand. While chart success is only one measure of an artist's impact, it is a reliable indicator of consumer behavior and market penetration. Jungkook's continued presence on Billboard charts, particularly in comparison to his own group's releases, signifies a shift in American listening trends and suggests that the market is increasingly ready to embrace him as a standalone figure. While Billboard charts and streaming numbers offer quantitative proof of Jungkook's solo success, public perception and media framing add qualitative depth to the discussion. In the United States, how an artist is portrayed across major entertainment platforms can influence not only their image, but also their longevity in the market. Jungkook's media presence in the US has expanded rapidly, establishing him as a distinct brand apart from BTS. Since his solo debut, Jungkook has appeared in a wide array of American media outlets. His name frequently features in publications such as Rolling Stone, Billboard, Variety, Forbes, and Time. These appearances are no longer restricted to BTS-related mentions. Instead, Jungkook receives full-length profiles, reviews, and think pieces. One notable moment was his feature in Rolling Stone's Future of Music series, where he was highlighted as a global artist with cross-cultural appeal. Forbes regularly reports on Jungkook's streaming milestones and commercial achievements, analyzing his influence as a business and music entity. Additionally, Jungkook has been covered in lifestyle media. Outlets like Vogue, GQ, and Esquire have spotlighted his fashion sense, often in relation to his Calvin Klein campaign. These appearances position him not only as a musician but as a fashion and cultural figure in the American public eye. Jungkook's solo appearances on US television are a key marker of his individual popularity. Performances on programs such as The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, Good Morning America, and The Late Late Show with James Corden gave him platforms to introduce his music to a broader, non-K-pop specific audience. What distinguishes these appearances from previous BTS group features is the focused attention Jungkook receives. Solo interviews allow him to speak more about his personal artistry, inspirations, and goals, giving American viewers a chance to connect with him on a personal level. These conversations, often carried out in English or with subtitles, build a bridge to Western fans who appreciate individual storytelling. American media often differentiates between K-pop idol and global pop star. While BTS was initially framed through the lens of a K-pop phenomenon, Jungkook's solo media narrative leans more toward that of an international solo artist. Writers and critics often compare him to Western peers like Justin Bieber or The Weeknd, especially when reviewing his music genre, production style, and lyrical themes. This evolution in framing is significant. It indicates that Jungkook is increasingly seen as a participant in, rather than an outsider to, the US mainstream pop ecosystem. The transition from niche to mainstream is often marked by such changes in media tone and vocabulary. Another indicator of Jungkook's growing American presence is his inclusion in major pop culture events. His performance at the Global Citizen Festival in New York alongside international acts solidified his reputation as a solo performer. Additionally, his music is frequently used in American TikTok trends, TV sync placements, and even commercials. While BTS has had their moments in pop culture, such as appearances at the Grammys and UN events, these were usually collective efforts. Jungkook's solo engagements reflect individual recognition, something relatively rare for K-pop acts in the US. Jungkook's social media impact also plays a critical role in shaping public perception. Although he deactivated his personal Instagram account in early 2024, during its existence, it became one of the fastest-growing accounts ever recorded. His live streams on Weverse attract millions of viewers, with a significant portion coming from the United States. Mentions of Jungkook on Twitter, now X, TikTok, and YouTube are consistently among the highest for any Asian artist in the US. These mentions often trend independently of BTS events, indicating that his personal brand holds sustained attention. Jungkook's appeal in the US is expanding beyond the ARMY fanbase. Streaming demographics show an increase in casual listeners, particularly on platforms like Spotify and Apple Music, where his songs are often featured in general pop playlists like Today's Top Hits. These placements expose his music to American users who may not follow K-pop specifically, but are attracted to his style and sound. Market research from data firms such as Nielsen and Luminate show increased awareness and favorability ratings for Jungkook among U.S. consumers aged 18 to 34. This is the same demographic that drives mainstream pop success, indicating strong future potential for his career stateside. When BTS first entered the US market, coverage heavily emphasized their novelty as a Korean boy band breaking into the Western sphere. Now, the narrative around Jungkook has evolved. Journalists highlight his artistry, vocal ability, stage presence, and even his future potential as a solo Grammy nominee. In essence, Jungkook is being treated less as a foreign phenomenon and more as a fixture in the American entertainment landscape. This represents a significant departure from the way BTS was initially introduced to the same market. Jungkook's rise in US media isn't merely a side effect of his music's success. It is a critical engine of that success. Through consistent media coverage, talk show appearances, fashion partnerships, and public discourse, Jungkook has solidified his individual place in American pop culture.